When I thought about love, I used to imagine growing old with Sophia, building a life together, and sharing all the highs and lows. 2 months ago, I proposed on Mount Rainier at sunrise, and she said yes with tears in her eyes. We were planning our wedding, our future, our forever. Then, without warning, she said she needed a break to make sure this was what she wanted. I was confused, but respected her request. If you're watching this from a place where you've been blindsided by someone you trusted, completely drop your location in the comments and subscribe, because what happened next changed everything. I thought I knew about love and self-respect. I met Sophia at my college friend's housewarming party 3 years ago. She walked in wearing a blue sundress and carrying a bottle of wine, and I swear the entire room faded away. I was not typically the guy who approached beautiful women at parties, but something about her smile gave me the courage. We ended up talking on the balcony until 3 in the morning, long after most guests had left. I work as an architectural engineer at a respected firm in Seattle. I design buildings that need to withstand earthquakes and storms, structures that people trust with their lives. Sophia worked as a marketing executive at a growing tech company. On paper, we seemed like the quintessential modern couple, both driven in our careers yet finding balance together. Our relationship flourished on shared interests. We both loved hiking the countless trails around Washington state. Weekends often found us with backpacks and trail maps, discovering hidden waterfalls or breathtaking viewpoints. Sunday evenings were for cooking together, trying recipes from countries we hoped to visit someday. And at least once a month, we would take impromptu road trips, sometimes just pointing to a spot on the map and heading there. We complemented each other perfectly, or so I thought. I am methodical, always planning and thinking several steps ahead. Sophia was spontaneous, pulling me out of my comfort zone. She taught me to embrace uncertainty while I helped her create structure when she needed it. Her creativity balanced my practicality. Together, we felt whole. After 2.5 years together, I knew Sophia was the one I wanted to spend my life with. I planned the proposal for months, coordinating with park rangers to access a specific viewpoint on Mount Rainier before the regular opening hours. We hiked up in the dark with headlamps, reaching the spot just as the sky began to lighten. As the first rays of sunlight painted Mount Rainier in gold and pink, I got down on one knee and asked Sophia to marry me. The ring was a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, chosen because it reminded me of her eyes. She gasped, covered her mouth, and nodded frantically before finally saying yes through happy tears. We embraced as the sun continued to rise, illuminating what I thought was the beginning of our lifetime together. The weeks after our engagement were a whirlwind of joy and planning. Both our families were thrilled. Her parents hosted a small engagement party where her father made a toast that brought tears to my eyes, welcoming me as a son. My mother gave Sophia my grandmother's pearl earrings, a family tradition for brides entering our family. We put a deposit on a beautiful converted barn venue for a wedding the following summer. Sophia started browsing wedding dresses with her sister and best friend, sending me excited texts after appointments. We discussed whether we wanted to buy a house in the suburbs or stay in our city apartment a bit longer. We even had conversations about starting a family, agreeing that we would like to have children in 3 or 4 years after we had time to enjoy married life. Looking back now, I can identify the subtle shifts that began approximately 3 weeks after our engagement. At the time, I brushed them off, making excuses that aligned with what I wanted to believe rather than what was actually happening. Sophia became increasingly attached to her phone, often angling it away from me when texting. If I walked into the room unexpectedly, she would quickly lock the screen. Once I noticed her smiling at her phone during dinner, and when I asked what was amusing her, she simply said, "Just a meme from a coworker." Work suddenly required her presence late into the evening several times a week. While this had occasionally happened before during marketing campaigns, the frequency increased dramatically. When she came home at 10 or 11 at night, she would be vague about what had kept her at the office, changing the subject when I asked for details. Most concerning was her diminishing enthusiasm for wedding planning. The woman who had created multiple Pinterest boards within hours of our engagement now seemed distracted during venue discussions and uninterested in cake tastings. When I suggested we set a date to visit a potential caterer, she sighed and said, "Can we talk about this another time? I am exhausted." I convinced myself it was just the stress of wedding planning combined with a busy period at work. Perhaps she was feeling overwhelmed by all the changes. I decided to give her space, believing that every relationship has ebbs and flows. This, I told myself, was just a temporary low tide before the water would return stronger than before. How wrong I was. It was a Friday evening when everything changed. I had picked up ingredients to cook Sophia's favorite pasta dish, hoping to reconnect after what had been a distant week. I opened a bottle of wine, lit candles, and waited. She was supposed to be home by 7. At 8:30, I heard her key in the lock. Sophia entered our apartment with an expression I had never seen before. Her face was a mask of determination mixed with guilt. She did not comment on the dinner setup now cold on the table. Instead, she asked me to sit down because we needed to talk. "I think we need to take a break," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I need some space to make sure this is what I want." The words hit me like a physical blow. We were engaged. We had plans. We had promised forever to each other. How could she suddenly not know if this was what she wanted? "What do you mean? A break? What is going on, Sophia?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my best efforts. She avoided eye contact, fidgeting with her engagement ring. "I just think it would be healthy for us to have some time apart to reflect on what we really want. The engagement, the wedding planning, it is all happening so fast. I need to be sure. Has something happened? Is there someone else?" I asked, the question I feared most slipping out. "No," she said quickly, too quickly in retrospect. "This is about me needing space. This is about us making sure we are making the right decision before we commit to forever." Despite the pain tearing through my chest, I agreed. I loved her. If she needed time to be certain, I would give her that, confident that our love would prevail. We set what I thought were clear guidelines for our break. 2 weeks apart with minimal contact. We would both use this time for reflection, not to explore other relationships. Sophia would temporarily move to her sister Amelia's apartment across town. After the 2 weeks, we would meet for dinner and discuss our relationship and whether we were ready to continue our engagement. I helped her pack a suitcase with enough clothes for 2 weeks, still in a state of shock. As she zipped up her luggage, she slipped off her engagement ring and placed it on our dresser. "I will see you in 2 weeks," she said, kissing me on the cheek before leaving. The door closed behind her, and our apartment suddenly felt cavernous and empty. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the ring that had represented our promise to each other, now abandoned on the dresser like a forgotten trinket. The first few days of our break were agony. I sent occasional texts just checking in to see how she was doing. No response. I called once and it went straight to voicemail. I left a message saying I was thinking of her and hoping her reflection time was helpful. Nothing. By the 5th day, concern began to outweigh my respect for her requested space. I called her sister Amelia, with whom Sophia was supposedly staying. "Hey Amelia, it is Cletus. I just wanted to check on Sophia. She has not been responding to my messages." There was an uncomfortable pause. She is not here right now, Amelia," said, her voice strained. "When will she be back? Can you ask her to call me?" "Look, Cletus, I think you should talk to Sophia directly about this. I do not want to get in the middle." The evasiveness in Amelia's voice sent a chill through me. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The next day, I called Sophia's office under the pretense of sending her some documents she needed. The receptionist informed me that Sophia had taken 2 weeks of vacation time. This contradicted what she had told me about needing the break partly to focus on a stressful work project. I checked our shared location app, something we had set up for safety during hikes. Sophia had turned off her location sharing. Another red flag that this break was not what she had claimed it to be. Sleep became elusive. I would lie awake at night, mind racing with scenarios each worse than the last. My appetite disappeared. Friends commented on my distracted demeanor and the dark circles under my eyes. I was beginning to unravel, and the 2-week mark still felt impossibly far away. Then came the message that shattered any remaining illusion. A week into our break, my phone pinged with a text from Ryan, a mutual friend who frequented the upscale restaurant scene in Seattle. "Thought you should see this," the message read, followed by screenshots from Instagram. The photos showed Sophia at Canlis, one of Seattle's most expensive and romantic restaurants. She was smiling widely, raising a champagne glass. Across from her sat a man I recognized instantly, Jackson, her ex-boyfriend. The caption read, "Reconnecting with what matters most." More photos followed, time-stamped from different days that week. Sophia and Jackson at the sculpture park, where she and I had often picnicked. The two of them at a concert for a band she had once told me she discovered with him. A selfie of them on the Bainbridge Island ferry, her head resting on his shoulder, the Seattle skyline behind them. The break was a lie. There were no reflections happening, no soul-searching about our relationship. While I sat alone in our apartment, respecting her request and believing in our future, Sophia was rekindling her relationship with the man she had dated before me. I learned later that Jackson was the one who had ended things with Sophia shortly before she met me. He had moved to Chicago for work, choosing career over their relationship. Apparently, he had recently returned to Seattle, and somehow they had reconnected. The truth hit me with crushing clarity. I had been a placeholder, a comfortable relationship, while the man she truly wanted was unavailable. Now that he was back, she needed a way to explore that reconnection without being labeled a cheater. The break was her escape clause, a way to technically avoid infidelity while pursuing Jackson. Each new discovery was a knife twist in an already gaping wound. The week that followed the social media discovery was the lowest point of my life. Initially, I found myself making excuses for Sophia's behavior, creating elaborate scenarios where there was an innocent explanation. Perhaps she and Jackson had run into each other by coincidence. Maybe she was getting closure before fully committing to our relationship. Deep down, I knew these were lies I told myself to avoid facing the painful truth. But that truth became impossible to deny as more evidence surfaced. Mutual friends now aware of the situation began sending me more sightings and social media posts. There was Sophia entering Jackson's downtown apartment building late at night. There was Jackson's new Facebook status update. Some people come back into your life for a reason. The most painful was a photo Jackson posted, with the caption, "Second, chances are, rare, do not waste them." In the picture, a woman's hand that I recognized as Sophia's rested on his arm, her distinctive bracelet clearly visible. Each night I would look at her engagement ring, still sitting in its box on my nightstand, where I had placed it after she left. The symbol of our future now seemed like a cruel joke. I lost 15 pounds in those 2 weeks. Dark circles formed under my eyes from the insomnia that plagued me. At work, my performance suffered to the point where my supervisor pulled me aside to ask if everything was okay. "Just going through some personal stuff," I told him. "It will pass." But would it? The pain felt eternal, all-consuming. My best friend Aaron was the first to intervene. He showed up at my apartment, unannounced, took one look at me, and knew something was seriously wrong. "You look like hell," he said bluntly. "What is going on?" I broke down and told him everything, the words pouring out like a dam had broken. Aaron listened, his expression growing increasingly angry. "She is cheating on you, man," he said when I finished. "Break or no break, this is cheating. You need to end this now. Call her, text her, whatever. But this relationship is over." But I still could not bring myself to make that move. Some irrational part of me still hoped for an explanation that would make it all okay again. My sister Jennifer flew in from Portland to stay with me for a few days. She cleaned my apartment, forced me to eat regular meals, and got me outside for walks. "I know you love her," Jennifer said, as we walked along the waterfront one evening. "But sometimes love is not enough, especially when the other person does not respect you. Would you ever do to Sophia what she is doing to you?" The answer was a clear no. I would never have treated her with such callous disregard. The final push came from my father during a family dinner Jennifer arranged. My dad has never been one for long speeches or emotional displays, but that night he shared wisdom that cut through my fog of pain. "Son, when someone shows you who they are, believe them," he said quietly. "Your worth is not determined by how someone else treats you, but how you respond to that treatment says a lot about what you believe you deserve." His words stuck with me, planting a seed that would soon grow into resolve. The next day I was sitting in a coffee shop trying to distract myself with work when I overheard a conversation at the next table. A woman was telling her friend about breaking up with someone who had been stringing her along. I finally realized I was making myself small to accommodate his inability to commit, she said. The moment I walked away, I felt taller somehow. That simple overheard conversation became a catalyst. I suddenly saw with clarity what I had been unable to face. I was diminishing myself by accepting treatment I would never inflict on someone else. I made an appointment with a therapist that afternoon. In that first session, I barely stopped talking long enough to breathe, releasing weeks of pent-up emotions. "What would you tell a friend in your situation?" the therapist asked. The answer came immediately. To end it. To value himself enough to walk away. "And why is it different for you?" she pressed. It was not. I deserved the same respect I would demand for anyone I cared about. That evening, I packed up the remaining items Sophia had left at our apartment. Clothes, books, toiletries, mementos from our travels all went into boxes. I placed her engagement ring in a small velvet pouch at the top of one box. Then I sat down and drafted a clear, concise email, ending our relationship. I did not send it yet, but having it ready gave me a sense of control I had not felt in weeks. The break was supposed to last 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks passed with no word from Sophia. Then, 3 weeks. I was beginning to think she might never contact me again, that our 3-year relationship and engagement would end with ghosting rather than an actual conversation. Then, 23 days after she walked out of our apartment, my phone rang with her number. "Cletus, hi," Sophia said, her voice casual, as if she had not disappeared for over 3 weeks after shattering my heart. "I think the break has been really good for me. For us. I am ready to come home now. We can get back to planning the wedding." No acknowledgement of her absence. No mention of Jackson. No apology for ignoring my attempts to contact her. Just an expectation that I had been waiting in suspended animation, ready to resume our relationship at her convenience. A strange calm came over me. The weeks of anguish crystallized into absolute clarity. "The break is over," I agreed, my voice steady. "And so is this relationship." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "What do you mean?" she finally asked, her voice smaller now. "I mean exactly what I said. Our relationship is over. I have packed your things. You can arrange to pick them up or have someone get them for you. But you cannot do that," she stammered, shock evident in her voice. "The break had rules, Cletus. Rules you agreed to." "Yes, it did. Rules that you broke the moment you started seeing Jackson again." Another pause, then a sharp intake of breath. "You were spying on me, having people follow me. That is psychotic. The accusation might have hurt me a few weeks earlier. Now, I just felt tired. No, Sophia, I did not need to spy on you. You and Jackson posted your reunion tour all over social media. It was impossible to miss." Her tone shifted to anger. "The break meant we could see other people. That was implied. You just sat around feeling sorry for yourself, instead of going out and living your life." The mental gymnastics were almost impressive. The break had explicitly included an agreement to remain faithful, but Sophia was now trying to rewrite history. "This conversation is over," I said. "I will leave your boxes with the building manager. Please return your key." I ended the call as she was still protesting. Then I blocked her number. Sophia did not accept the breakup quietly. Within an hour of our phone call, her sister Amelia called me. I almost did not answer, but decided it would be better to get everything over with at once. "You are making a huge mistake," Amelia said without preamble. "Sophia is devastated." "I am sure she will recover quickly with Jackson's help," I replied. That was nothing. A momentary confusion. "She realized he is not the one for her. She wants to marry you." I almost laughed at the absurdity. A momentary confusion that lasted 3 weeks and involved romantic dinners, concerts, and apparently spending nights at his apartment. "Please tell Sophia she can pick up her engagement ring with her other belongings." Next came a flood of texts from Sophia herself, sent from Amelia's phone, since I had blocked her number. She veered between anger and pleading accusations and apologies. I read them all but responded to none. The most surprising communication came from Jackson himself. A text from an unknown number turned out to be him. "You ruined everything," he wrote. "Sophia and I were figuring things out, and you forced her hand with your ultimatum." I blocked his number too, marveling at how I was somehow the villain in their narrative. 2 days later, I arranged for Sophia's sister to collect her belongings from the building manager. I included a short note with the engagement ring. "I hope you find what you are looking for." I changed the locks on my apartment, not because I thought Sophia would try to enter uninvited, but because it felt symbolic of the boundary I was establishing. I also changed all my passwords and removed Sophia from my emergency contacts at work. Each action was a step toward reclaiming my life. Friends who had witnessed Sophia's public displays with Jackson rallied around me. They shared information they had been hesitant to tell me before fearing it would hurt me more. Apparently, Sophia and Jackson had been in contact for months, ever since he moved back to Seattle. Their reunion was not spontaneous, but carefully orchestrated. I also learned that their rekindled romance had already flamed out. Just 2 weeks after their public displays of affection, Jackson had been seen with another woman. The second chance he had posted about had lasted approximately the same amount of time as Sophia's proposed break. The validation that I had made the right decision did not immediately heal the wound of betrayal. There were still nights when I stared at the ceiling, replaying moments from our relationship, and wondering if any of it had been real. There were mornings when I reached for her, before remembering she was gone, the muscle memory of 3 years together, slow to fade. Therapy became my lifeline. Week by week, I processed the relationship, the betrayal, and my own insecurities that had made me willing to accept less than I deserved. I learned that loving someone does not mean surrendering your dignity or self-respect. I rediscovered hobbies I had neglected. Photography had once been a passion, and I began taking my camera on long walks through the city and hikes in the surrounding wilderness. I reconnected with friends whose company I had prioritized less during my relationship with Sophia. A month after the breakup, I took a solo weekend trip to the Olympic Mountains. Standing on Hurricane Ridge, looking out at the vastness of the mountains and sea, I felt the first real sense of peace since Sophia had asked for a break. The pain was still there, but it no longer defined me. I started journaling, recording not just what had happened, but the lessons I was learning. Writing down my thoughts helped clarify them, turning nebulous feelings into concrete insights. 6 months after the breakup, life had developed a new rhythm. I had thrown myself into my work, finding satisfaction in architectural challenges that once would have seemed mundane. The focus paid off with a promotion to senior engineer, leading my own team on a major downtown development project. I moved to a new apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. The view of water and mountains became my touchstone, a daily reminder of the beauty and possibility that remained in the world. Dating again happened gradually. Coffee with a woman from my rock-climbing gym, dinner with someone a friend introduced me to. I was transparent about my recent experience, careful not to bring baggage into new connections. I took things slowly, prioritizing genuine connection over filling the space Sophia had left. Closure came in an unexpected form. 8 months after our breakup, a letter arrived from Sophia. For a moment, I considered returning it unopened, but curiosity won out. Inside was a 4-page handwritten apology. She acknowledged the pain she had caused, the trust she had broken. She wrote about therapy she was undergoing to understand her own actions. There was no request to reconcile, just an expression of remorse and a wish for my happiness. I never responded. The apology was not for me, but for her part of her own healing process. I wished her well silently and placed the letter in a box of mementos I kept from that chapter of my life, a chapter that was now firmly closed. The experience with Sophia taught me lessons I carry forward into every relationship. I learned that true love does not require breaks or tests. It thrives on transparency, communication, and mutual respect. Love should never diminish you or ask you to compromise your dignity. I discovered that being alone is infinitely preferable to being with someone who makes you doubt your worth. The quiet of solitude is peaceful compared to the chaos of betrayal. Most importantly, I learned that endings, even painful ones, can lead to new beginnings you never imagined possible. By standing firm in my self-respect, I opened the door to growth and possibilities that would have remained closed had I accepted less than I deserved. Looking back now, I can see that responding to Sophia's casual, "The break is over with," so is this relationship was not just about ending something toxic. It was the first step toward reclaiming my power, my self-respect, and ultimately my happiness. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to walk away from someone you loved because you realized they did not value you? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about finding strength through difficult times. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, share this video with them. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself.